we don't have any money right now, so we were trying to be fiscal conservative. So we're trying to figure out, this thing costs money to make. So I hunted him down, not with a gun or anything, but I found where he lived. I spoke with the original president of this organization, Mr. Cruz, and he told me that they might have it, and sure enough, oddly enough, the week that I was thinking about this thing, they happened to have found it in their garage as they were cleaning it out because they were about to sell their house. So it was almost like divine intervention or divine providence that we got this original banner back to our organization. And if anyone knows anything about me, when I ran the Brooklyn Young Republican Club, club's been around since 1880. I do like tradition and history, so where the history of the organization is part of that banner, we'd like to embrace certain things of the past. But we also want to go forward into the future and making this organization a prominent organization, an organization where people could have their thoughts expressed freely, but with respect to everyone in the room. So we do appreciate you all coming here. With that being said, until we have the senator arrive, if anyone has any... yes.
I just want to make an announcement. If it's this, I believe that this April 15th is the 7th anniversary of our birth as a organization. I think that the first date was April 15th of 2009.
That's right.
And I personally was down in Annapolis, Maryland, for the rally down there in a pouring rain. Everybody was dressed in plastic bags and with the garbage bags with holes cut in. And it was funny because it was right in front of the Naval Academy.
Ladies and gentlemen,
sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Marty Golden.
You look very prosperous, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
How are you guys?
Excuse me, sir.
do it at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Marty Golden will be addressing us today. Once again, when you have questions about when it comes time to question and answer, please just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm all over the place today. It's one of those busy days, as usual. We were at Anton's earlier this morning. We had the Holy Name breakfast, and we had a number of honorees, police officers for the year. But the unfortunate reality there was also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 posthumously. 3 of them from 9/11. We keep forgetting what 9/11, the tragedy, the later the years and the longer from the incident that we seem to forget the tragedy of 9/11, which is really, really sad. That these police officers are still dying, and people in our communities are still dying, those that went and volunteered. And thank God we got the Segroda Act done at the federal level with the good help of Congressman Dan Donovan. And we did it obviously at the state level. It was my bill here to make sure that we add additional groups and additional diseases and cancers that are coming out from the Segroda Act. So we got that all accomplished in the past several months, which is important, but it's very, very sad. But they had some turnout. Over 1,000 police officers there. It was really well done, very well orchestrated, and breakfast was not great, but that's okay. The mass was good. The bishop came and said mass. So the lady of sorrow, what was that?
Bishop Dalton.
Well, last of March, we had a good time. And there was about all the families from those that have lost.
What parish was it?
I'm trying to, it's a lady of, not,
Is that it?
no, not a lady of Knock, a lady of, not Medjugorje, but a lady of
Guadalupe?
No?
Oh.
That's the, what's the three big ones? Lady of Knock? Huh?
Lady
No,
Fatima.
one more. Lady Fatima, Lady of Knock,
Lady of Blessed Sacrament.
Lady of Lords.
Lady
Lady of Lords, out in Queens on Springfield Avenue. Springville Boulevard. And then we went to, we just came back from the Gargiulos. They had 450 women, about, out of that 450 women, there might have been 20 men. They're having their annual fundraiser, card party, and very, very successful. Unfortunately, they have an issue with the minimum wage coming up, right? There's $15 an hour that the governor's looking to do. And of course, they're not taking into account the wages of the individuals that are going to be working in these not-for-profits, these city, state, and federal not-for-profits that are out there that need to be increased if you're going to increase the minimum wage. So they got to take that into consideration. I think the number's closer to about $7 billion statewide for all of the different, between the education, the OPWDD, the hospitals. If you take into consideration all those different employees that work, all those different units, that's a pretty significant impact on the taxpayer and the people here in the city of New York. So we're putting out our bill tomorrow, and the state of New York. We're putting our bill out tomorrow, and our bill will take into consideration all of those different entities and make sure that there's a study done and that we don't do what we see in Seattle. We see the reverse in Seattle. We see the loss of jobs in Seattle by the increase in the minimum wage. I think everybody's entitled to a living wage, and people should be able to live here in this great city, but it's got to be reasonable. And I remember working for 85 cents an hour, a buck and a quarter. I mean, those are the days. I'm sure some of you go back and maybe even go back before that. But those were the days. I think if you make $50 a week, you were making a lot of money. But those are the big issues coming up. Family leave, which is coming up, but that's actually a tax that's passed on to the actual individual employee, and so they make up the difference. And that's, I don't know how many weeks that'll be. He wants 12 weeks. The average is about 6 weeks around the other states, about 6 or 8 states. So I figure it's going to be anywhere from 4 weeks if we do it, up to about 6 weeks. If it goes to 12 weeks, I would be surprised. But again, it goes to the actual employee pays that on a weekly basis, or according to their check bi-weekly, however that goes. I want to talk about some of the things going on here in our crazy city. And I say crazy because even the bishop today started to talk about, you can't tie the hands of our police departments and expect everything to work and continue to bring crime down. That's not going to happen. Crime is eventually going to go up because you keep on reducing penalties. Today they want to throw out 700,000 warrants. They're going to send them over to civil court. They think there's no consequences for that. There is. They also want to take away the penalties for urinating and drinking and graffiti and different things that people will be doing on the subways, and that would be also a bad thing to do because you want to be able to take those people, off of the street. You don't want that happening in front of you. You're going to work, your kids are going to school, you have your parents and grandparents and people going in and out of these trains and out of in and out around the city. You want to make sure you have a balanced city. You want to have something that we've seen what this city was like. Many of you here are old enough to remember the pre-Giuliani days in the city. I mean, they were pretty bad. Just to give you an idea, there were 2,245 murders in the city of New York in 1992. Think about what I just said in 1991. Over 2,000 murders in the streets of the city of New York. Today, it's 300. Still, that number's gone up since last year, and you're going to see more of that going up. Today, the biggest scourge out there is heroin, unfortunately, and nobody seems to want to take in and see what's going on with the heroin, although I got to give our police department a lot of credit. They have gone out there and they've done some good seizures over the past couple of weeks on the heroin. But just to give you an idea how many people died in the city of New York last year on heroin versus homicides, 600 people have died from heroin overdoses in our city. In Bay Ridge, I've lost, in Dyker Heights, I've lost somewhere around 8 people since January, 2 doctors' kids in December. 24 and 27. Both of these children, young men, had been into different programs, and the program just didn't work for these individuals, unfortunately, and it took them, it devoured them. Heroin is 90% pure, and the heroin going down through the states of this great country, that 40% comes from the city of New York. So when everybody says it's coming in from 95, we're doing the distributing downstate. So think about that. Think about what I'm telling you here. And once we don't have the detox beds, we don't have the residential programs that we need more of that. And we need more enforcement. And we got to be able to go out there and seize more of this terrible, terrible disease. We have a bill that I put out there when the Democrats were in charge of the state back in 2009, 2010. They were in control of the Assembly, the Senate, and the governorship. And under their leadership, they changed the Rockefeller drug laws, never taking into consideration the weight of heroin. Heroin, you take an eighth of an ounce of heroin, you can create hundreds of bags of smack, where you can't do that with cocaine. So they should have taken into consideration and raised the threshold on the felonies when it came to possession of an eighth of an ounce of heroin or more. That's what's killing our kids. We did iStop. iStop is a program that went into effect around 3 years ago, where you go to a doctor now puts it into the computer. Your prescription goes directly by technology to the pharmacist and to the state of upstate to the health department. So you can't go Dr. A, Dr. B, Dr. C, your prescription from Dr. A, Dr. B, and Dr. C, get the hydrocodone, and then go to 3 different pharmacies and get that filled. That will come out on the computer, and you won't be able to do that here in this state. You know, in other states, but this state you can't do that. So that drove the kids, because the pills are now up to $20, $30 a pill. It drove them to the smack and to heroin, because it's only $6, $7, $8, $10 a bag, 90% pure. They're cutting with fentanyl. They cut that with 140-pound 17-year-old takes a hit of that. That kid's in bed. That kid's got a good chance of unfortunately getting hooked. Gets 2 or 3 of it, he's definitely getting hooked. And to get those kids off of that, very, very difficult. So that's something you're going to see we're putting money into tomorrow as well in our budget to make sure we address those concerns. But that's something the city has to do, that's something the state has to do, something the federal government has to do, and they're not putting enough money in. Matter of fact, the federal government went as far as to send money into the different states. And guess what? They sent the money into us, good city here. And guess what they left out? They left out Staten Island. No. Staten Island is #1 in the country for heroin overdose. Okay? Think about what I just said. #1. And the federal government left funding out of Staten Island. And they have no detox beds over there. They really need help. So we have at least a couple of organizations here that are working with it. Still not enough, so we're going to work harder to make sure that that happens.
Did they give a reason?
No.
Why they left out?
Republican borough, that's why.
No.
Well,
Republican borough president for one thing.
Yeah, and it's very possible that could be might be true. But the police officers, obviously, their hands got to be untied. They're afraid to even take their gun out today because of different events happening across our country, maybe 15, 16 events. Our police departments across this great country deal with millions, 62, 67, 68 million interventions a year with our police departments. Less than 1% have a tragedy, and we are seeing some of that. And because of that, our president has stood down, and different rallies and different groups have come and have changed the direction not only of our nation, but of the policing of this great nation. And we see the same thing going on here in this great city, and it's wrong. And you see the other day, police officers were beat up in a housing project, and they tried to handcuff them, and unheard of. I mean, just unheard of. Another 2 officers at a housing complex stopped 2 kids in the hallway and said, well, I live upstairs, so we'll walk upstairs. Imagine letting these guys walk upstairs without searching them. Why would you stop them in the first place if you didn't think there was an issue, right? So you should have at least searched them. Of course, they walked up the step, the 2 kids got to the top step, turned around, boom, boom, boom. shot the 2 cops. This is going on a regular basis, and the police officers are not taking their guns out, and they're afraid to take their guns out, and they're afraid to do stop and frisk, stop, question, and frisk, which is wrong. They should be doing stop, question, and frisk, and they should be arresting these individuals who have the guns. And of course, a lot of you are fearful of your lives, not so much of the guns, but all the slashings that you see, people slashing people, people stabbing people. The knives are a big issue. Luckily, you live in the southwest and southeast parts of Brooklyn. We live in probably the safest communities in this great city, and so far we don't witness as much as you do in other parts of the city. But it's just here on Kings Highway. There was a slashing just this past Saturday over by Coney Island Avenue. Just to give you an idea that it's going on, and it's something that we have to address. Continuing on the changes here in our city, they want to do something about what they call non-citizen voting. What do you think about that? Is that a great idea?
No.
The New York City Council wants to grant voting rights to non-citizens, possibly even illegal immigrants, in all municipal elections. What does that mean? That means your city council, right? That means your controller, city controller. That means your public advocate, right? It means your mayor. So if you were to add those numbers, it's pretty significant, right?
I think by 17 they want to do this, right?
Yeah, these elected officials will say that they are doing this for fairness, equality, and of course, the American way,
Please.
as they see it. But we all in this room know better, right?
Senator, excuse me. Is there any federal law that bars you from doing this?
No, no. Right now there is, the municipalities themselves can do this, but they got to be, I'll talk a little bit more on that as we move through this conversation. Yes, sir.
I wanted to raise an issue that about this heroin thing that I think is a huge problem. But I think that throwing away the key and just saying, okay, we're going to just lock them all up into prison isn't really the answer. I think the answer is we need more funding for drug courts. I think we need more, because drugs, especially heroin, is a mental health issue. And I think the problem is that there is way too much stigmatization of mental health issues in our country, including in New York City. I'm not saying only New York City, the whole country. And I think that we need more destigmatization of mental illnesses like drug addiction. And what we need is to push people, okay, go to the drug court and get yourself clean, because that is better than putting them in prison. When you put them in prison, they don't get the drug addiction behind bars. What happens is it's penny wise and pound foolish. We spend more money on putting people into prison. It costs way more money than if we just if we push them to get treated properly.
Maybe I didn't clarify. I said like 1/8 of an ounce. So when you're dealing 1/8 of an ounce, you're dealing a little bit more than a street urchin. What you're doing here, we're looking to take the kingpins, we're looking to take the people that are out there with a half kilo of cocaine, of heroin and cocaine, but heroin specifically because we want to change the weight on heroin, and actually take those people and take them off the street. They belong in jail, and they belong in jail for as long as we can place them there. Now, as far as working with the drug courts, I believe that 100%. I work with Judge Calabrese here down in Brooklyn in drug court here. He's doing an outstanding job. You have a number of different groups here, Dynamite, Youth, and that are actual intakes where they actually may take the individual, if the child is ready to go, or if the court recommends. They actually sit in the court. We work with Donna May and her group over in Sunset Park and in Bay Ridge and Staten Island. We work with a number of groups that are assigned to the courts to be able to take the drug courts and to take these individuals and get them into plans where they can, if they can afford them, the insurance is paying for it, or if we have to get them on Medicaid, we get them on Medicaid. But the other thing that we're trying to do at the state level is to make sure that more insurance companies are picking up this tab for the families to be able to get these kids into programs if in fact they fall into a different category when it comes to income. We don't want to see a disparating income issue here, and we see our children not being able to get the help that they need. We need to get our kids into programs and get as much help as we can. As I pointed out earlier, it's not for everybody. Not every kid is going to, I spoke to Daytop and to Dynamite Youth and Task and a couple other groups this past 2 weeks ago. And I told the kids in that room that were rehabbing and had gone through detox. And I told those kids in that room that, some of you kids will not